Today we're speaking to Ricky Ray Taylor, former amateur boxer and current boxing coach, and the author of Punches and Prayers, his life story of his journey through boxing and life. Hiya Ricky, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on here, Andrew.
You're in New York City. How's the lockdown going?
I mean, I'm getting used to it, I guess. 2 months of, they won't, as a boxing trainer, I'd love to be able to train people in the park, and there's people that want me to do it, but, I just can't. We just can't do it. So we're ordered to stay in a house, and that's where we are, but we go for a walk. I'm going to go for a walk in a little bit. It's funny how we plan this. I'm going to go for a walk around the park, around the neighborhood, I guess, and come back home. It's strange. It's really strange. Such a busy, bustling city, seeing everything just stop. And that's, but, unfortunately, I'm getting used to it.
Is it improving there now?
I think we're just getting used to it, man. I'm telling you, but, if you had a little bit of savings, you're okay. And we had a little, but it's, it's going away very quickly. What's going to happen next month? And I get this incredible rent. What's going to happen in the following months? I don't know. It seems like our governor is the last one in line wanting to open the city up. It seems like he's wanted to keep it shut for a long time. Who knows what's going on, what his reasoning is. I really don't understand it, but,
And you can't get to obviously do your boxing sessions, and you train at one of the gyms is the world famous Mendez Boxing Club, isn't it? Which sadly you've lost Francisco Mendez recently.
Yeah, it was horrible. His son called me in the morning and said that the dad died, and before he released it to the put it online or anything, he wanted to call me and let me know so I wouldn't have to read about it. And I literally fell off the couch onto the floor. It was such a terrible thing, and to swallow that. I just talked to him, but
what was he like, Ricky?
What was he like?
Yeah, Francisco.
I tell you what, he and I go so far back. When I first moved to the city 20 years ago, I got a job at Church Street Boxing Gym, and I replaced him. It's funny because they just gotten rid of him and they brought me in. And so I just heard about him. I never met him for 2 years, and I heard about Francisco Mendez, and then I never met him. And then I left Church Street 2 years later and went out on my own and broke out on my own and started freelancing. And I heard that it was funny. It's funny how we met. I went into a gym on 28th and 5th, right in the middle of Midtown, and I had a bunch of guys to train in the morning. And they wanted to train at 5 in the morning. No gym would open for me. Now I was a brand new trainer. I just had a few clients. And so I would go to that gym and say, will you open at 5 in the morning? The owner said, no, we're not. We don't open till 6. So I'm like, oh, and I had 5 guys. So I left. I'm walking down the stairs, and the little guy behind the counter follows me down the stairs. He says, hey, come here. I'm the one that opens the gym in the morning. I'll come in an hour early. Give me $20, and I'll open for you. I'm like, oh, thank you, man. And so appreciate it. So I started training people, and he helped me get my business going. And I get to talking to the guy. I only saw him for a minute. After my session was over, I'd leave and go home. But we talked, and he kept saying, I'm going to open my own gym. I'm going to open my own gym. And eventually one morning I show up, and he's not there. And the my people left because I couldn't get in the gym. The owner comes in at 6 in the morning and says, I said, where's that little guy? The little guy that was opening up the gym. He said, he opened up his own gym on 32nd Street. I said, where? And his name was Francisco. I said, where is Francisco? He said, I don't know, somewhere on 32nd Street. Andrew, I walked east side to west side, up and down the city, looking for this gym, and I found him. I found him by the grace of God. I found his gym, and he said, bring your people here, and we bonded. Me and this guy, and that was Francisco Mendez. He ended up growing, and he bought a couple places in New York City, big gyms, and I grew with him, and I built my business with this guy, and he's just an awesome guy, man. He was a hard worker. The guy was working 100 hours a week, trying to grow his business. He wouldn't hire a lot of outside help. He had all his family in it. his kids and his wife, and they all just kind of worked together. And but he always took care of me, man. He gave me a locker, and I at his house for Thanksgiving. I mean, it's a big thing we have in America here on Thanksgiving. But he just loved me, man, and I love the guy.
Very sad news. And going to your own boxing career, Ricky, when did that begin and where? Because you've been all over America, haven't you?
Yeah, I fought in a bunch of states. Yeah, I was 11 years old. I was too late to sign up for baseball, and my dad said I was with my friend, my neighbor friend, and he said, "Let's go to the boxing gym." And so like whatever. So we get in a car, and we're upset we couldn't play baseball because they wouldn't sign us up, and we drove to the gym, and this is 1982. Man. Back then, we got in the gym, and it was in the heart of the projects in South Mississippi, very poor area. And we walk in this gym, and me and my dad and this kid and one kid, or my friend, and this one kid in the back, we were the only white guys in the gym. It was a rough gym in the heart of the city. And they threw me in the ring first day. They said, "Can he fight?" My dad's like, "I don't know." They took a mouthpiece out of a bucket, spurred water on it, and stuck it in my mouth, a big piece of rubber, put me in the ring, and the next thing I know, this kid swinging at me, and I'm fighting back the best I could. And it was funny because my dad said, we did fall for like a minute. My dad just apologized. He's like, "Look, I'm sorry. My kid doesn't know how to fight." But the coach was like, "You know what? We like him." My dad said, "Why do you like him? He's throwing crazy punches. He said, we're not looking if he can fight because we know he's had no training. We know that he can't fight, but we want to see if he would fight. Will he fight? Because we can't teach that, and we can work with him now." So that's how we did it. And 2 weeks later, I had my first fight, and I won. And then the next week, I won again. I mean, I just took off.
Fan of boxing before that, or was your dad a fan?
I'm 11, man. You know, I mean, I guess I played all sports, football, baseball, played everything. So I was a fan of every sport, man. But yeah.
And you had over 140 bouts in the end, didn't you?
My 140 fights, yeah, amateur fights. You know, people ask me, "Why didn't you turn pro?" I thought about it. You know, I was 18. I had my 100th fight on my 18th birthday, my high school graduation, all on the same weekend. And it was the Olympic box office in my region, and I lost. And they were like, "Look, why don't you turn pro?" I had a guy wanted me to come to California. I was a kid and train there, and I was like, I was burnt out. I was tired, man. I was really tired. And
I read that in your book. And when you said you was burnt out, you was about 20. You was only about 20 years old, wasn't
they had 100 fights. My 100th fight was on my 18th birthday, and I was shot, and I didn't know what that meant to be burnt out. But let me back up though. I don't think I was just tired of boxing. I wasn't physically burned out. I was a little mentally drained, and then then I quit for a couple. I went into college, and I was about a year and a half into college, and the Olympic Training Center, or they sent me up there. My dad and my coaches sent me up there for an all-comers camp, and they saw me, and then I come back home, and a couple months later, they called my dorm room, and they said, "Look, we're setting up an Olympic Education Center in Marquette, Michigan, and we want you to be on the team. We're going to train you for the '92 Olympic box office Olympic team." And I hadn't boxed in a little over a year. And I gained weight. I was overweight. I fought 125. I was walking around 150. I'm studying, and I lost all this weight. I lost 30 pounds that summer, and then I went up there and had 37 more fights. And then, that's where it was. Then I was really burned out. I couldn't throw any punches. I was done.
What sort of style would you say you had, Ricky?
I was very aggressive. I came forward a lot. I, you know, I've learned as a trainer, you show me a guy that doesn't care about getting hit, you're a guy that if he brags on me, I can take a punch and I'll keep coming forward. That tells me that's a guy who's going to get hit a lot. Okay, so you've got to have some type of concern about taking punches, and I didn't really have that. I just waded through them. I'm 5'5", and I waded through the shots, and I tried to get close and work on these. I could have. I was fast, and so I could have stepped back and been a little more patient. And so I was more aggressive than I should
When
have been.
I've seen clips of you, you remind me of Ricky Hatton. You
Yeah.
had that type of movement.
Yeah, he was a little more aggressive, and he didn't really care about taking punches either. And until he towards the end of his career, when I think Mayweather then started hitting him, and he was done. But he used to could walk through that stuff. You just get to a point where you can't walk through it anymore, and you stop, and you don't want to be burned out. Everything in your heart tells you you're not. I still want to fight, but your body just can't take it anymore, man. I felt my heart broke for Ricky Hatton when I saw that, because he used to could handle stuff like that. Could he have beaten Floyd Mayweather? I don't know. But I know he could have walked through that back in the day. But,
I mean, you've got some great amateur memories to look back on. You was Golden Gloves champion in quite a few states, wasn't you? And you boxed Roy Jones when he was young as well.
Fought him twice, yeah. Roy Jones, yeah, we grew up together. We grew up in South Mississippi. He was about 90 miles away in Pensacola, Florida. So, we fought, we were around each other all growing up, and then he was actually much smaller than me. And I fought 125 for a long time. He moved up through my weight, and then we fought twice. I went the distance with him both times. He didn't knock me out. He knocked out everybody else. But I'm saying, I used to walk through that stuff. But
Was he, when he was an amateur? He looked as the next big thing?
Very similar. Well, it was funny about Roy, because we'd go to fights. You've been to fight shows with your son, and you go there and the kids are playing, and we're playing basketball, and the coaches are matching everything up. And right before the weigh-ins and before the physicals, we're all just hanging out. And when we'd go to fight shows, we were playing basketball and playing tag, and Roy was always, there was something different about him. Even then, as a kid, he would sit in the bleachers with his dad. He was always with his dad. They went everywhere. And they would just sit there, and we were playing basketball, and he'd sit there, and he'd just look around. He kept to himself. There was something special about him. Looking back, I'm seeing, back then I'm like, oh, come on, why wasn't he playing with us? But I'm seeing now that he knew there was something different about him, I think. And
and what about Ricky, when your dad, did he do your corners?
My dad, he invented that time clock that we hear in the gyms. They brought him on board as like a timer. If you remember back in the early days, they didn't have those clocks. We'd be in the gyms, and there'd be somebody with a stopwatch, and he'd time. He hated that role, because every time he came to the gym with me, they'd make him the time guy, and he hated it. But he eventually worked his way into working corners with me, and he probably worked my corner probably 30 or 40 fights. And before he turned me over to a lot of different trainers through the years. You
mainly started boxing coaching when you moved to New York, didn't you? And I liked when I read about the business plan you put together, and just basically started your own business, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I really started in Mississippi, man. Started refereeing fights and judging fights, and I just wanted to be involved somehow. Like, I wasn't gonna, when I decided, okay, I'm not gonna box anymore, I wanted to stay involved. So I started working with kids in the gym and working, being refereeing fights and judging and things like that. But that's free. You don't make any money. I still had to work. But then when I had the opportunity to move to New York City, I really wanted to be involved in boxing, and I knew and I heard about white collar boxing. I never really. It wasn't available in Mississippi, but I heard that there are people up here making big money doing that. And I just started working my way into the gym. And, well, eventually I wanted to separate myself. I've always wanted to separate myself from everybody else. And I wanted to separate myself from the regular trainer. I don't want to be the typical trainer that's working for $10 an hour, in a job in the gym and having a boss. I wanted to be the boss. So I incorporated myself. I incorporated my sessions, and I initially brought some people on board that were trainers with me, and had somebody working a website store for me and things. But I got rid of everybody. The only employee right now is me. because I'm BoxerDRILLZ Corporation's the name of my business. And I just want to be different, man. I want to be able to brand things. If I want to make shirts and put my name on them, I want to do that without being in trouble from.
And you've carried on in lockdown, haven't you? You're online doing shadow boxing sessions.
Yeah, doing these Zoom sessions like what we're doing here, man. I mean, I'm still learning the Zoom stuff, but yeah, I'm doing it, man.
Yeah, and you've got quite a few friends. You've known some big name boxers, Burnham Forrest, great world champion, Joey Gamache. He's at Mendez Boxing, isn't he, with you? And Lonnie Bradley.
Lonnie Bradley, love Lonnie. Yeah, Lonnie's. I tell you what, he's got a job. He does something with construction, like these high rises. They build these high rises. He's the guy on top. He's that balances on these scaffolds and does stuff. He's amazing. But he comes in the gym a lot, and I say, yeah, I love Lonnie. He almost came to Marquette back in the day. They almost brought him on board, but we had a 156 pounder. I think that's what he fought, and they wound up just not bringing him on board. But yeah, Lonnie, Joey Gamache is probably one of my closest friends here in the city, and yeah, Joey's a great guy, man. Really, honestly, you meet Joey Gamache, you'd never guess he's a boxer. If you didn't know, he's such a cool, nice guy. You'd never guess he was a killer in the ring. I'm sure you know people like that, Andrew.
Yeah. Not everyone's a boxer, Bill, are they? And that's one thing you mention in your book, that not everybody has what it takes. It is a brutal sport at times. And what do you think makes a boxer?
You know what I've learned in boxing here, there's something about, and I didn't know this really going in, but when I came to the city, but when guys come in the gym and they want to box, you say two guys, they want to box. One guy's rough, and he's in the streets, and he's a rough kid, and he's got tattoos all over him. And sometimes I'll put this guy, and I'm training him. I'm holding the mitts with him, and he's hitting the bag, looks great. But I put that tough guy in the ring to spar with somebody, and he finds out something that he didn't know was in there. Maybe he knew it was there, but it comes out there of cowardice. He's scared. It's a fear that's brand new to him, or maybe he just didn't want to release it, but now everybody can see it. And sometimes the scariest, the most timid, wimpiest looking guy, I'll take him and I'll put him in the ring, and he's a beast. He's got this stuff in here that the other guy doesn't have. And so it's funny seeing these people, and sometimes it's a revelation to them, and as it is to me. You know, I've gotten through the years, and you probably know this as a trainer, Andrew, that you can tell a lot about people just before they even get in the ring. You can usually tell. Not always, but you can usually tell. But I love this revelation where I'm sorry, where they find out about themselves that they have something, or maybe they don't have something that they thought they had. So it's really neat.
It is a leveler, isn't it, of everybody, no matter who you are.
That's exactly right, a leveler, yeah.
Right after this. That was a knockdown.
can't speak to you without mentioning in the book quite a striking chapter is when you talk about your experience on 9/11 when you was near the World Trade Center.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps right when you mention that. I mean, it was I called myself a Christian. I mean, growing up down south, everybody's, we all, yeah, I'm a Christian. I just don't go to church. Or, we believe in God, whatever. I didn't. But I was what's a lukewarm Christian at the time. I smoked. I was up here smoking pot. I was selling pot. I was buying it. And I was doing all that. But I went to church. And so, I was in Revelation 3:16 that God spits that type of Christian out of his mouth. He hates that type of Christian. That was me. And then 9/11 happened, man. The planes hit the towers. And I'm running down Broadway with a suit on. I was selling cell phones at the time at a voice stream. I was working part-time in the gyms, but I was full-time cell phone salesman. And I'm running down Broadway towards the towers. Here's the tower, and I'm running towards it. And here's the plane that hit here. So I'm looking at this giant hole in this building as I'm running. And you don't realize what you're going to be doing until something like that happens. I never thought I'd be running towards. I thought I'd be running from it, but I'm running towards it, and I'm thinking there's got to be ways to help these people. Now, I'd been to the towers many times, and I knew there was a back entrance where the freight elevators. I was thinking maybe if I go around back, I can come up, because I don't know if I'll be able to go to the front doors. But as I'm getting closer to the towers, people started falling. They started, and I could see they weren't falling. They were jumping. They were on the ledge, and the flames were coming up, and they would hold hands, and they would look around or whatever, and they jumped. And I kept running, and I don't know, Andrew, why, but I kept running towards the tower. And I got all as close as I could get until I'm seeing them hit the ground. And I don't know. It was a weird thing, but it's like I blinked my eyes, and the building, I'm looking at it, it turned to dust. I'm looking at you, and you're dust. And I'm like, what? And I remember freezing for like 2 seconds, and then I felt this rumbling, and the dust, and I knew what was going on there. The buildings were collapsing. So I turned to run, and I felt the wind hit me. And this all happens in a matter of like 3 seconds. I turned, and as I took one stride, the wind and the pellets of whatever was hitting me in the back of the head, and I'm running. And I'm running in the dark, in the smoke, and I knew the building was falling. I could hear it. I heard the people screaming, but it was a fear, Andrew, that I can't even put into words. I didn't know where I was running to. I knew what I was running from, but I didn't fully understand why. But I ran as far and as fast as I could up this street with the wind, and I got to my sister's house. I'm putting all this in like 2 minutes here, but I remember making it to my sister's house on 72nd, somewhere around there. And I sat on a couch, and I remember just sitting there, and I said, okay, God, and I laid back on the couch, and I'm covered in just stuff. This is funny. It's not funny, but I thought that when I sat on my sister's couch, I'm gonna get in trouble because she's gonna get mad. I've got soot all over my clothes, but then I thought, well, she's dead, so I don't need to worry about it. And then it was just so I'd never seen anybody die before that day. And I sat on the couch. I said, okay, God, that I don't even know. I said, look, you better do something here, because the person that woke up this morning is completely different than the guy now that just saw 100 people kill themselves. Something's got to happen. And that's where it everything just changed from that point. So,
your sister was okay.
She was, yeah, praise God, she was good. Yeah. Yeah. I hit a point, Andrew, and I said, something's got to change immediately, because I'm either going to never, ever pray to God. I'm never going to go to church. I'm never going to deal with this with you again, because how could you let that happen? I'm thinking to God, to all these people, this is my mindset, were they all Muslims? Were they all non-believers? Did everybody die today? Were they not Christians? But if they were Christians and they loved you and believed in you, how'd you let this happen to them? God, where are you? And I struggled with that, and it was heavy, and it was pounding on my head for a couple of days, Andrew. And then I'm telling you, I don't know where it came from, but a paperback Bible, New Living Translation version Bible, fell into my hands. I don't know, within the next 24 hours, I don't know, I can't remember where I got it. And I picked this thing up, and I grew up in South Mississippi, and I grew up with the Bible, and I grew up reading this thing and tossing it around. I'd try to read a little bit, and I'd toss it in. It never really made sense. I picked this Bible up. I turned to the book of Matthew, first book in the New Testament. It was just a New Testament. It was a cheap paperback Bible that they hand out on the sidewalk. I opened it up, and I started reading, and I couldn't put it down. I'm telling you, the words were exploding off the page, and I couldn't I was like, oh my God, it was like I picked it up for the first time, and I couldn't stop reading. And I'm a dissecting. I took a pen out, and I'm circling words, and I'm taking notes, and it was absolutely amazing how this. It was just time for me. I didn't know why. That was a miracle in itself. That it was just time for me to give myself to Jesus, and that's eventually what happened. Yeah.
Well, Ricky, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. And I encourage anybody to buy your book, which is Punches and Prayers, and it's on Amazon. And my last question for you, Ricky, is what is it that you love about boxing?
I think that the thing I love about it most is that the boxing ring is the great unveiler. And I've alluded to this just talking a little bit today, but there's something about the inside the ring where nobody knows you better, and you don't know anybody better than the guy you're sparring with. I'm talking about when they're going at it. You really get to knowing that guy. But it also unveils so much about yourself. You learn something about yourself. And some stuff you can work on and try to fix, and sometimes some stuff you're proud of. And the things that are in you, that you unveil about yourself, that are unveiled to you, you got to try to, and it'll be your lifelong mission to fix this stuff. If there's a fear, if I'm scared, I don't want to be scared. I don't want to be that guy. I'll work on that. But I think boxing is the only thing that's out there that can really give that to somebody. I don't think you can do it in golf or football. I think there's something about man versus man in the boxing ring that really unveils something about people, and that's what I love about it.
Well, thanks very much, Ricky. And it's a shame we never saw you as a professional, because watching you on YouTube, you was definitely good enough.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your compliments, and I appreciate your time, Andrew. It's awesome.